What's the best bathroom paint for moisture? Let's answer that question right now, shall we? Yo, what's cracking, folks? Jeremy Vassar here. I am a professional painter of over 20 years, and in that time I've painted hundreds, if not thousands of bathrooms. A little hard to keep track over the years, they all kind of blend together. For this video, we're talking specifically about bathrooms that have a moisture-producing element in them, such as a shower. So when you take a hot shower, steam is produced, that steam floats up and it hits the ceiling and the walls and all the other surfaces in your bathroom. If a proper bathroom paint wasn't used, then what you'll see over time with repeated exposures to moisture is that paint will get moldy, it'll start to crack, and eventually it'll fail. I've seen it a whole bunch, particularly in bathrooms where builder's grade flat paint was used on the ceiling and the walls. That is why you want to go with a paint that has moisture and mold blocking agents built into the formulation. You might also see it described as mildew resistance. Nowadays, it's very common for the top tier lines of paint from most paint manufacturers to have that built into it. Fortunately for all of us, this has become a really common feature in a lot of the top tier acrylic wall paints from the majority of paint manufacturers that are out there. So we have quite a bit to choose from, which is great. And I'll circle back to that a little bit later once I talk about the paint that I'm currently using in the field for the bathrooms that I'm painting. So now that we know that we should be using an acrylic wall paint that's got moisture and mildew resistance built into it, what about the Sheen? For that, let's go to this handy dandy Sheen chart that I made. All right, so I'm gonna go over this chart real quick and then we'll talk about how to select the right Sheen for your application in your bathroom. All of the terms that are highlighted in yellow are Sheens. They are all also finishes. Those two terms are used interchangeably. And as you can see, the shinier the finish, the more durable it is. So you have gloss at the top end. That is the shiniest of finishes that you'll see for, interior paints. It's the most durable, it's also the most shiny. And then on the bottom end of the scale, you've got flat, which has almost no shine to it or none at all, and it is the least durable. You may ask, why don't we just paint everything in gloss? And that's an excellent question. I actually get asked that quite a bit. And the reason for that is also the shinier the finish, the more defects that that product is going to reveal on the surfaces, particularly in drywall on the ceiling and the walls. So if you painted your bathroom in gloss paint, it in general is not going to be the finish that most people like. I think that looks like garbage. Way back in the day before we had all these specialty products, a lot of people would paint their bathroom ceiling and walls in semi-gloss, and it's quite an aggressive shine. It bounces light everywhere, and I don't think it looks great. Nowadays, we have a lot more options to create a much better looking finish on those surfaces. As you look at this chart, you do have to consider there are a couple different surfaces in your bathrooms that are going to require paint. So you've got your trim and your doors. Generally, that's not a big deal because most folks prefer a semi-gloss finish on their trim and their doors in all of their house, and they'll just wrap that into the bathroom. Nowadays, most trim paints are either a hybrid or some sort of enamel, and those are incredibly durable, particularly in a semi-gloss finish. They cure out really hard, and they're gonna resist that moisture and mold really well. So that's not a big deal. Just want to touch on that real quick. Now, getting into the ceiling and the walls, I would steer you away from flat as well. The flat finish gets used on ceilings in the rest of the house just because it has a really nice soft finish, looks really great, hides all the defects. But even in a product that has the moisture and mildew resistance built into it, the flat tends to not hold up well just because it doesn't have any sheen in it to really help in deterring that moisture and mildew, and that will break down quicker than the other sheens. So you're left with matte, eggshell, and satin. Those are kind of that's the main bracket of sheens that I would recommend for your ceiling and your walls in your bathroom. What's going to determine what you should go with is going to be a little bit of personal preference, but also your particular bathroom setup. Couple things you want to consider. Number one is, do you have an exhaust fan, and how well does that exhaust fan work? A lot of the bathrooms I paint are newly renovated, and they have new exhaust fans that are really powerful, and they suck the moisture right out and blow it outside. If that's you, then you can drop down to a matte finish and you're gonna be good to go. That's gonna look great and it'll hold up really well in the products that I'll talk about here in a second. So if your bathroom is properly ventilated, and the way you'll know that is if you take a hot shower and that steam just tends to linger on and it just kind of sits on all the surfaces, then I would recommend going a little bit higher and picking the satin or eggshell finish. That's just gonna hold up better long term. There's a couple other things you can do to help kind of off-gas that steam, which is like open doors, open a window, but again, that sometimes is not an option. The other factor in how well your bathroom's gonna hold up over time is how high your ceilings are. If you have a really low ceiling in your bathroom, particularly if your ceiling is drywall right above your shower, so it's not tiled or anything, those ceilings just get blasted with moisture. And again, if it's not properly ventilated, and you don't have a good exhaust fan pulling all that moisture out, I would steer you more in the satin direction as well. But if that is not you and you have higher ceilings and maybe you have a full tile shower, so again, the direct moisture from the shower is not hitting that part of the ceiling, or you have really high kind of like vaulted or cathedral style ceilings in your bathroom, that'll be less of an issue. You're gonna be totally fine with a matted finish, and that'll look great. I would also recommend whatever finish you go with on the ceiling, I would also go with that on the walls as well. That is what we do whenever we're making that choice. If we went with satin on the ceiling, we're gonna go with satin on the walls as well, because again, as the steam forms in the shower, it rises up, it'll hit the ceiling and then start to come down the walls. So it's just a good idea to just stick with the same sheen everywhere. Obviously you can do a different color. Most people go with white on the ceiling and then some sort of color on the walls. All right, now let's talk about what I currently use in the field. Again, a lot of the bathrooms I'm painting are recently renovated, so there's a lot of new drywall in there, and it's really common to see both green drywall and purple drywall get used, and they use that a lot of times for moisture reasons. The primer that I go with most of the time is Prep Right Pro Block Primer from Sherwin-Williams. If they won't sell this to you because you're a homeowner, not a contractor, the multi-purpose in the blue can is the exact same thing. That works pretty good. Recently, a product I've been experimenting with for priming is Fresh Start from Benjamin Moore. This does really well over the purple and green drywall. If you use a lower grade primer on those spots, then that green or purple will bleed through, particularly if you're using like a white ceiling paint or something like that on it. But this is a really high build primer, and it seals all that in really nicely. You don't get any bleed through from the purple or the green, which is nice. I will touch on trim for 1 second, and we use emerald urethane trim enamel and semi-gloss. It is incredibly durable. This is a hybrid product, so when it cures out, it dries just super hard. Resists moisture, mildew, all that stuff phenomenally well. Also really holds up well to like high touch areas like doors and things like that. But great products, still my go-to trim paint. Lastly, for the walls and the ceiling, I would say on 95% of the bathrooms that we do, we use Emerald Matte from Sherwin-Williams. This is their top tier wall paint. Generally, we're using the matted finish. Like I said before, most of the bathrooms I'm doing have new exhaust fans that are fairly powerful and vent that moisture out really well. So we haven't had any issues with durability and things like that with the matte finish on the walls and the ceiling. If I run into a scenario where the bathroom's just not venting well and they've had a lot of moisture issues before, then I will do this product in satin, and that holds up really well. The reason I jump up to satin is because there's no eggshell version of this product. That's just how Sherwin-Williams is with some of their product lines, and you'll see that in other paint brands as well. They might not have all the sheens represented in each tier of the product. If you're not into Sherwin-Williams and you would like a list of products that I recommend from the other paint manufacturers like Lowe's, Home Depot, and Benjamin Moore, check out the link in the description. We'll send that list right over to you, and that's gonna do it for me. Until next time, y'all take it easy, work smart, and have a good one. Bye.